This is the Lindemann legacy from my mother's side of the family. We begin in Germany, where Klaus Lindemann, born in 1760, married a Margaret. They had a son named John Matthias Lindemann, who married Anna Marie Kruger. And they had one child, Carl John Ludwig Lindemann, born in 1826 in Germany, and he died in 1917 in McGrath, Minnesota. His wife, Wilhelmine Johanna Swan, was born in 1838 in Prussia and died in Bertha, Minnesota. They had 8 children, and the most important one was my great-grandfather, August Frederick Julius Lindemann, born in Brandenburg, Germany in 1862. He died in 1955. We refer to him as AFJ. He married Ernestine Amelia Buchholz, who was born in 1860, to Frederick and Wilhelmine Buchholz. They had 6 children. AFJ and Ernestine were married in 1880 in Germany. My grandfather Otto was born in 1881 in Germany before they traveled to America, where AFJ and Ernestine had 11 children. So we're going to begin with the oldest, my grandfather, Otto William Frederick Lindemann, who married Ella Stoley in 1906 in Langford, South Dakota. Her parents were August Frederick and Augusta Duberpool Stoley, who had 11 children. This is Augusta. And these are her children. And one of them at the bottom, Lily Stoley, married John Johansson. They had 8 children, one being Florence Lena Johansson, who married Corwin Wells. And they had 3 children. They had Goldie, John, and Richard. We would spend many summers back and forth between Tyler and Huron, South Dakota. Florence was a nurse, then she became a teacher. Corwin was on the volunteer department, and he knew how to do everything. Goldie, their oldest daughter, married Bill Markey, son of Harold and Ada Markey. Goldie and Bill had Vincent, Diane, James, and Patrick. Okay, now let's go back to AFJ and his firstborn, my grandfather. So Otto William Frederick Lindemann married Ella A. Stoley. And here they are. These are wonderful pictures that they gave us. This is a way to remember our ancestors. And of course, my grandfather was a pretty fun guy, as you can see in this picture. And there he is with his buddies. It's a great picture. And here they are on their 25th wedding anniversary. This is a picture of my grandfather and Uncle Walter. Here they are on their 50th anniversary in 1956. They were a great couple. She would always come out to the porch and say, "Have you et yet?" And he would look at us kids and he'd say, "I'm going to cut your buttons off." And he'd get out his little knife. He was fun to be around. And here they were celebrating the centennial of Lake Benton, where they lived. They loved each other to the end. Their firstborn was Walter, who was born in 1907 in Fernie, South Dakota. Walter never married, but he was our sergeant in the United States Cavalry in New Mexico. We were very proud of him. Next came Arthur William Frederick, born 1909, died 1979. He married Bernice, and they had one child that I know of, Dana, or Daniel Lindemann, born in 1947. And then Willard was the 3rd child, born in 1911, who was married to Margaret. They had 2 boys, Donald and Dwayne, and both were given up to foster homes after Willard and Margaret divorced. The 4th child was my mother, Rose Lily Violet. She was born 1913. She married Herman Christensen 1931. Now they lost their first baby, but then came Roger in 1935. Roger married Patsy McCauley. and they had 3 children, Karen, Vicky, and Johnny. So these are the 4 children, Louis, David, Bodil, and Roger. So I was the second one born. I married Don Elbeck. I have 2 children, Robert and Lisa, and I love them. Next came David, who was born in 1942. He married LaDonna, and they had Jody and Scott. David now lives with his second wife, Jeannie. And then there was Louis, the last. He was born 1947. He never married, but he became a very well-known flamenco guitarist. Now back once again to Otto and Ella, whose 5th child, Violet Mildred Mabel, was born 1922. She married Raymond Elbert Ohl, who was born to Ernest and Christine Clemenson Ohl. There's Ernest with Ray. And this is Christine. Now, Ray and Violet, or Toots as we called her, had 5 children, Judy, Jimmy, Jerry, Janice, and Johnny. Okay, they were a wonderful couple together, and their family were devoted to them, as you can see in their 50th wedding anniversary picture. When they passed away, the kids all got together, say their goodbyes. Now this is Judy, their oldest, born in 1941. I believe she has 8 children, Beverly, Philip, Deborah, Brenda, Butch, Mike, Randy, and Melody. And she loves to have a good time. James was next. He was born in 1944. He married Maxine, and they have 2 children, Stacy and David. There's David's wedding, and there's Stacy with her boys. The 3rd child was Jerry. Jerry married Patty Powell, and they had Cindy and Jeremy. And now, this is Cindy, and this is Jeremy. And now Jerry is living with his 3rd wife, Sue Ohl. Janice was the 4th, born in 1947. She married Tom Powell and had 2 girls, Danielle Marie and Nicole Yvette. And then Janice married Richard Barber, and they had Tiffany Ray. And then there was John Ernest Ohl, born 1961, who married Teresa. They have 3 children, Brian, Tyler, and Nathan. Now let's go back to great-grandpa AFJ and Ernestine's family. After they moved from Germany to America and settled in Iowa, the next born was Anna Wilhelmina, born in 1896 in Iowa, married Harry Hurd, and I didn't find any evidence of any children with them. The 3rd child, though, was August Franz Frederick Lindemann, better known as Frank. Born in 1891, he married Anna, and they had Francis Lindemann, born in 1919, who is said to have been so small that he could fit into a cigar box, and you could put your ring over his hand above his elbow. He grew up, played the accordion, and had his own radio show. They also had Norman Lindemann. The 4th child was Edward, who was born in 1900 and died at 7 years old. The 5th child was George Carl Frederick, or Charlie. Born in 1889, he married Mary Hirschberger. They had 6 children, Elmer, Wilma, William, Ronald, Robert, and Richard. And then the most colorful was Uncle George, who was our notorious barber. He was wonderful. Uncle George never married, but he died in 1990. The 7th child was Rosetta Louise Wilhelmina, who was born 1896 and married Reverend Charlie Baxter. They had 1 child, James Otis. And then the 8th child was Mabel Hattie Lindemann, born 1908, married August Henry Nordmeyer, the son of Dietrich Theodor Nordmeyer and Wilhelmine Schmidt. Naomi Darling was born 1926, married Carol Knudsen, and they had 3 children. They had Judy, Linda, and Peter. Betty, the second child, was born in 1928. She married Cal Dahl. They had Jeffrey, who had Katie and Kevin. Chris was born in 1962, but he passed away 3 months later. Then they had Rebecca, who married Matthew Green, and they have 2 children, Paige and Grant. And here is Betty's whole family. Cal passed away, but there they are, close and loving her every day. Then came Eldon Earl Nordmeyer, who was born 1930 and married Wanda Larson. They had Peggy, Nancy, Jane, James, and Joan. This is their family. Then came Kenny Duane, who was born 1942. He married Clarice. They had 5 children, Karen, Jelaine, Craig, Glennis, and Leanne. Now back to AFJ's other 2 children, the last 2. Julius Lindemann Jr. was born 1884. He married Lena, and they had 2 children, Edward and Lloyd. And then came Ella, who married Clarence Ewerly, and they had 3 children, Irvin, Raymond, and Bernice. Now, as Paul Harvey would say, and now the rest of the story. In 1941, AFJ recorded his family record for his children in his own handwriting, recording all that he knew about his life in Germany and as much as he knew about each generation. Took him 2 months, and there were 42 pages, all in ink, spattered here and there. However, when he had finished the genealogy part, he said then to his children, "Now read and learn, and prove, I will, that we were related to Martin Luther, who was born in 1483 and died in 1546. You see, Martin Luther's mother was a Lindemann, who lived in the same village as our Lindemann ancestors. So notice that we've traced the Lindemanns back to 1760s, and as he said, there's only about 200 years difference between the 2 families. You didn't mess with AFJ. When he spoke, everybody listened, including his own sons, no matter what their age. If they didn't listen, he'd hit them with the cane. And he owned a large farm outside of Lake Benton, Minnesota, and at one time he was the town mayor. He also operated a filling station, was the manager of the Lake Benton Co-op Shipping Association. He served on the creamery, the co-op, the elevator, and the school and township boards for many years. He served as the first district county commissioner and was an officer and honorary member of the Royal Neighbors and Oddfellows Lodges, and he served as secretary for the modern Woodman Lodge. When his wife Ernestine died in 1916, he waited and then married again in 1928 to Martha Helene Kreutz Metcalf Kruger. Then he died in 1955 at the age of 92. At the time of his death, he had 25 grandchildren and 41 great-grandchildren. AFJ has given us a wonderful Lindemann legacy. Thank you, Great-Grandpa.